It is truly my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. He has 32 years of progressive experience within our organization. He has served our organization as a labor relations representative, senior labor relations representative, member education trainer, field director, director of field operations, and interim director of governmental relations. He has a passion for protecting classified employees' rights. He is the first CSEA classified employee to assume the role of executive director. Delegates, will you please welcome our new executive director, Mr. Keith Pace.
Good afternoon, President Valdepina, members of the Board of Directors, delegates, fellow staff members, and guests. I want to first start by joining President Valdepina in expressing my deepest sympathies for the families affected by the shooting in Gilroy. Over my CSEA career, I have had many occasions to work with our Gilroy members and those members in the surrounding communities. Their work on behalf of the parents and children in their community is exemplary. I can only imagine how they are affected by this tragedy. I have asked our South Bay Field Office to provide whatever assistance they can to any of our members who might have been affected by this tragedy. It is difficult to understand why tragedies like this occur, but it is times such as these that remind us all that life is very fragile. Our time here is limited, and it is precious. Hug your loved ones and care for your friends, because at the end of the day, what matters most is not the small or trivial things which so often consumes our daily lives. What matters is how we choose to treat one another and how we love one another. So I want to welcome you to CSEA's 93rd Annual Conference. I want to thank the Conference Committee Chair, Damian Noriega, Karen Buckner, the Staff Coordinator, the amazing Conference Committee for making this week what will be the greatest conference ever. This past fiscal year has been a year of challenges, transition, and successes. At last year's conference, former Executive Director Dave Lowe announced that he was retiring in early 2019, bringing to an end a 38-year career filled with personal and professional achievements. For the last 8 years, Dave had served as CSEA's 7th Executive Director, operating as an effective leader concerned not with who got credit, but instead on what we would do to ensure the organization successfully fulfilled its mission. And fulfill the mission is precisely what the organization did under his leadership. By the time Dave had reached the end of his time as executive director, the organization had attained 91% membership. It had built a secure budget with a healthy reserve. It had developed strong board and member relationships. It had hired and maintained a talented staff, and it had solidified a strong governmental relation reputation and had cemented a culture of success. Executive Director Lowe left the organization in a stable position. And it is now our collective responsibility to ensure that our great union continues to thrive and succeed. This past year has been a year of many transitions, and I stand before you today not only as part of that transition, but also as the personification to what all classified employees can aspire to become. On December 1st of last year, I became the first former classified employee in the history of CSEA who was elevated to the position of Executive Director. Thank you. I could not have predicted 32 years ago this would be my course, but I'm humbled and honored by the fact that it has become my reality. My connection to CSEA and classified employees did not start with the years I served as a classified employee and a proud member and officer of Dixie Chapter 242 in San Rafael. For over 33 years, my dad served as a journey-level carpenter and a proud and active member of both CSEA's College of Marin Chapter 196 and SEIU Locals 250 and 400. And for 2 years, my mom served as a custodian at Redwood High School and a proud member of Tamalpais Chapter 549, which is where I graduated. Because of their classified employment and their chapter strong contracts, they earned a middle-class wage which allowed them to provide a middle-class life for our family. They received health and welfare benefits which allowed us to see a doctor when we were sick. They had paid vacation and sick leave which allowed them to take time off without loss of pay. They both worked under union contracts which allowed them to grieve contract violations through arbitration and protected their jobs from being contracted out. As a child, I remember every year taking a family summer vacation for 3 to 4 weeks. Now, these weren't vacations where we'd fly to exotic destinations and traveled in the lap of luxury. These were vacations where we'd pack into a family car that didn't always have working air conditioning, and we drove across this great country visiting relatives and historical places. Now, I must admit that it took me many years to fully appreciate why spending several days in a hot car, driving long hours, was called a vacation, especially when I compare it with my own 2 girls who engage in repeated courses of "Are we there yet?" after having left home only 5 minutes before. What I distinctly remember about these trips were the conversations my parents would have with relatives who wanted to know how it was that they got so much paid vacation to travel across the country to visit them. My parents' response was simple: because we belong to a union and we have a good contract. The responses I would hear in return were, "Wow, well, I don't get that kind of paid vacation. I want to be in the union too." Now let's consider how that conversation would go in some workplaces today. "How did you get all that paid vacation?" "Well, I'm in the union." "Well, I don't get that much vacation, so neither should you." As I grew up, I did not just witness the benefits my parents received because of a good union contract. I also witnessed the sacrifices they made to keep a good union contract and the fights to expand upon their rights and the rights of their coworkers. As those of you in this room know, classified workers have the right to request representation if their boss calls them into a meeting that the worker believes might lead to discipline. This right to representation was not a state law before the Public Employment Relations Board rendered the decision in a significant case. This right became law because a classified leader, just like many of you in this room today, took a stand against arbitrary action by their employer. In 1976, there was a classified worker who was an active and effective and respected representative on behalf of their fellow union members. This classified worker served as a union officer, a chief negotiator, represented their fellow classified workers in grievance meetings, and recruited new workers to join the union. The union became strong and powerful and successful as a result, and the district administration became threatened by the effectiveness and clout the union had built. In 1978, the districts decided it was time they made an example of this labor leader. By doing so, they hoped to diminish the strength of the union and create a chilling atmosphere amongst the other chapter members so they would think twice about serving as a leader in the future. The district decided they would terminate this labor activist by claiming they were holding union meetings during working hours and not following the orders of their direct supervisor. The district scheduled a meeting with this labor activist who, because of their steward training, knew to request union representation. The right, however, to union representation was based on federal law, and it was unclear at the time whether it was also be applicable to a state public sector worker. The district refused at first to reschedule the meeting, so a union representative could be present, and the union activists refused to meet with the district without one. So the parties were at a stalemate, and an unmovable object, the district, had come face to face with an unstoppable force, a trained, brave union activist. Someone had to blink. The district ultimately decided to hold a meeting with this union activist with their union representative present, but later terminated the activist for holding union meetings on district time and being insubordinate. The union filed an unfair labor practice charge alleging that the district terminated this union activist not because they were guilty of holding union meetings on district time or insubordination, but instead because they were an effective steward and union activists who consistently forced the district to obey the law and the contract and not abuse its workers. In November of 1980, the Public Employment Relations Board agreed with the union and rendered a precedent-setting decision. PERB ruled the district terminated this union activist in retaliation for their engagement in protected union activities and that the district had interfered with the union activist's right to representation. PERB established, based on the 1975 federal case, NLRB versus Weingarten, that classified workers in California had the right to have a union representative present at an investigatory meeting if the worker believed the meeting could result in discipline. And if a representative wasn't available, the district had to reschedule the meeting to allow for a union representative to be present. With this decision, Weingarten rights, which were federal law, had now become state law. Since 1980, thousands of classified workers throughout California have exercised their right to representation when they believed a meeting with their employer might result in discipline. The union activist who fought for this right has gone by many names over the years. His district at the time referred to him with names I'm not at liberty to use from this podium. Although before he retired, they grew to respect his honesty, his tenacity, and his conviction. His fellow union members have called him a lifesaver, a leader, or simply Big John. I know this union activist by a much simpler name, my dad. I am proud of my classified heritage and especially thankful for the role my family has played in improving the lives of thousands of classified employees. They have served as my guideposts, my mentors, and steadfast supporters throughout my life, to which I am eternally grateful. In addition to a new executive director, this year CSEA also hired a new governmental relations director, a new communications director, and a new information systems director. I'm going to ask that they come and stand behind me here. CSEA's new governmental relations director is David Shapira. David replaces Dave Lowe, who in addition to serving as the executive director, also served as CSEA's governmental relations director. David is a former Arizona state senator who brings to CSEA vast experience advocating for public education. David knows firsthand the ins and outs of policymaking at the state level and has been a consistent advocate for public education funding, safe schools, pay equity, and health care. I'm incredibly pleased to have David join CSEA as his knowledge, broad experience, and outstanding credentials will allow CSEA to continue enhancing its reputation for legislative and political excellence. Thank you, David. CSEA's new communications director is Karen Chandler. Karen replaces Frank Polito, who retired from CSEA after 19 years of service. Karen comes to CSEA with extensive communications experience. She was director of marketing at the YMCA of Silicon Valley, where she directed strategic communications and recruiting, members, fundraising, public relations, website design, and branding. Karen's experience includes working on behalf of other nonprofit organizations, as well as engaging in volunteer activities with community and networking groups. Karen will play a key role in leading CSEA's adaptation to a rapidly changing communications environment. Communications technology, media, mediums, and messaging are changing very quickly. The ways people, and especially our CSEA members, consume information is also changing. CSEA must adapt our communications to generational, gender, language, culture, and technology changes. Karen's experience will assist CSEA to modernize its communications, and I'm very excited to have Karen join the CSEA team. Thank you, Karen. CSEA's new information systems director is Sonny Battison. Sonny replaces Tina Wagner, who retired from CSEA after 15 years of service. Sonny brings to CSEA an expert's knowledge in cyber and network security, infrastructure application development, cloud computing, analytics, data management, and field service applications. Sonny's professional security certification and project management expertise will serve to enhance our cybersecurity, modernize our computer infrastructure, enhance the usability of CSEA's website, which will include the development of a fully functioning year-round CSEA app. Sonny's cloud and data integration knowledge will also help speed the migration of CSEA data to the cloud and hasten the development of technology needed to quickly and accurately process membership applications and membership information. Please join me in welcoming David, Karen, and Sonny to the CSEA family. Thank you, guys. I am proud of the challenges we have successfully overcome and excited about the opportunities and innovation that lie ahead. We've come a long way since last year. A year ago, on June 28th, the Supreme Court rendered its decision in the Janus case. CSEA had anticipated the court's adverse ruling and taken steps to be ready. By the time of the court's decision, we had upgraded our membership application process, paid down our debts, and converted thousands of service fee payers to members. We lobbied the legislature and convinced then Governor Brown to sign legislation that states whenever a public employer conducts a new employee orientation, we are guaranteed mandatory union access. Before the decision was issued, CSEA had reached our percentage goal of 91% membership, and CSEA membership was the highest in our history at over 241,000 members. The day Janus was decided, we estimated CSEA would lose $7.2 million a year in revenue from the loss of fair share service fees. Thanks, however, to the passage of Resolution 1, the dues cap increase, by CSEA delegates at the 2017 conference, CSEA was able to plan and budget for the impacts of Janus. This year, due to the board's leadership, preparation, and planning, and the activism of members and staff, the Janus decision has not prevented us from presenting a balanced budget containing a healthy reserve with no cuts in programs, training, service, or benefits to CSEA members. While we are confident that we were fully prepared for the immediate impacts of Janus, what we did not know at the beginning of the fiscal year was how many members would elect to drop their membership as the result of Janus. Out of abundance of caution last year, CSEA projected membership loss of 10,000 members per year for 3 years as a direct result of the decision. On May 31st, CSEA's fiscal year closed, and the membership statistics showed that CSEA only lost 1,908 members as a result of the Janus decision. When combined with our normal membership attrition, which is generally reflective of a slowdown or delay in hiring at the district level, our total membership loss during this year of transition from a service fee payer world to a potential member world was 4,136. So thanks to the efforts of members and staff across the state, we were able to beat our projected loss estimate by 5,864, which resulted in an annual savings of $2 million. So over the years, CSEA has become adept at addressing more than one challenge at a time. While the membership recruitment was placed and will remain at the top of our list of organizational priorities, the organization successfully met other challenges this past year as well. During the 2018 election cycle, CSEA had record wins up and down the state, including school board elections and a record number of local school bonds, bringing in hundreds of millions of new dollars into school districts through our local efforts. CSEA and organized labor had a very successful election day on November 6th, but even better, it has been the election that keeps on giving. Every day since the election, our success has grown, especially on the statewide level. As President Valdepina stated, CSEA joined with our allies to run a campaign to elect Gavin Newsom as governor. Although outspent, CSEA has proven over and over again, money isn't everything. As the saying goes, it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, it's about the size of the fight and the dog. On election day, Gavin Newsom won, and charter school millionaires who had backed his opponent and provided millions of dollars worth of attack ads and contributions had severely strained their relationship with the new governor. This at a time when they knew one of his biggest priorities would be charter school reform, which you will hear about more later this week. The election of Tony Thurmond to the State Superintendent of Public Instruction seat was another significant victory for labor, for CSEA, and the education community. On election day, the race between Thurmond and Marshall Tuck, who was also backed by charter school industry, was too close to call. However, after Election Day, it became clear that Thurman's lead was becoming mathematically impossible to overcome, and Tuck was eventually forced to concede. Newsom and Thurman's elections were not just big races practically, but also symbolically. To be able to take the charter school billionaires down in both the Newsom and Thurman races sent a loud message throughout California, and it is significant to our political outlook into the future. Our opponents knew we had arrived. In the California Senate, wins by CSEA-endorsed candidates returned the supermajority to the Senate Pro Tem Speaker Tony Atkins. In the Assembly, CSEA-endorsed candidates helped Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon increase his majority from a supermajority of 55 to a supermajority of 61. CSEA also helped elect Fiona Ma as California State Treasurer and helped re-elect Betty Yee as California State Controller, both of whom serve with Rob Fechner on the CalPERS board, ensuring that we will have 2 additional allies to help Rob protect worker pensions. Now, usually one would think that having 2 additional allies on the CalPERS board would provide us comfort and security in knowing that our pensions were safe from arbitrary action by some on the CalPERS board. Unfortunately, allies on the CalPERS board is something we cannot take for granted. The balance of the CalPERS board continues to be threatened by candidates whose philosophies and beliefs are counter to the mission and goals of CalPERS, and the upcoming election later this year is no exception. That is why the CSEA Board of Directors has endorsed Henry Jones in his re-election to the retiree representative position on the CalPERS board. Henry is being challenged this election by a former CalPERS board member whom the labor community believes would be problematic and disruptive if he were to regain a seat on the board. We therefore need to do all that we can to get Henry Jones reelected. Since this is for the retiree seat, only those who are retirees in the CalPERS system will be eligible to vote. It is important to remember that CalPERS will mail ballot packets on August 30th, and votes are due by September 30th. CSEA has put together an aggressive campaign plan to re-elect Henry, which includes turning out the unit members of our retiree unit to vote and to vote for Henry. Despite our transitions, challenges, and political action and elections, CSEA members and staff continue to achieve representational and negotiation successes that are truly amazing. When all is said and done, what we will never lose sight of is the importance of our representational services that support our chapters throughout the state at the local chapter level. I am continually impressed and amazed at what members and staff achieve at the local chapter level through effective planning, effective execution, and by leveraging the power derived from an active member and staff partnership. For example, during contract negotiations last year, the Kettleman Hills Chapter 332 decided to focus on closing the gap between the teacher's medical insurance cap and the classified employee's medical insurance cap. Historically, the district had always contributed much more money towards the teacher's medical insurance than the classified employee's medical insurance, which had resulted in some classified employees paying up to half of their monthly paycheck towards their health insurance premium. Are any of you familiar with this story? The district was opposed to bringing equity to the cap gap and instead attempted to pit the classified against the teachers, saying it would be unfair to the teachers to close the cap gap. Any of you familiar with that story? Instead of falling victim to the district's divide and conquer strategy, the chapter banded together, secured strong support from the teachers union, packed board meetings, and involved the community. After impasse mediation, the district agreed to close the cap gap by 2020, which was a massive success for the chapter as it put more money back into the members' pockets and set the tone for future negotiations with the district. In our Oxnard Elementary Chapter 272, the Oxnard School District, led by its superintendent, attempted to use a change in the law that allows noon duty aides in merit system districts to become classified employees. They decided to illegally terminate the employment of 140 campus assistants in the district. To add insult to injury, the superintendent planned to take this action right before the December holiday winter break. In the face of adversity, the chapter stood firm, rallying hundreds of employees to informational meetings in support of the campus assistance. When it came time for the board to vote on the action, upwards of 300 CSEA members, district employees, community advocates, and concerned citizens showed up and raised their voices in support. And ultimately, the pressure forced the board to vote 3-2 to oppose the district's actions and allow our members to preserve their jobs and their livelihood through the holidays and become classified employees after the winter break. The result of these actions and many more will have positive effects on thousands of CSEA members and their families for years to come. The successes we have attained this year are the direct result of teamwork and unity. Many hands have contributed, but it is clear that we do not have enough labor staff on the front lines to help our members successfully face the challenges at the local level and to continue winning on critical issues impacting workers. In 2011, CSEA faced a budget deficit, which we balanced in part by not filling one vacant LRR position in each field office. Since that time, CSEA has only brought back one of those positions. As Association President Valdepina indicated, our priority this year is to add more staff resources to the field, which starts with bringing back those LRR positions that we have not replaced, and if possible, to add even more. We will accomplish this not through irresponsible spending, but instead through a careful review of staffing levels across the organization and a responsible reallocation of existing resources. For example, CSEA's Chief Legal Counsel has determined after a multi-year review that the filling of 2 vacant positions within the legal department was not warranted or justified. Funds previously allocated to those positions have been reallocated to field operations and will result in the immediate addition of 2 LRRs into the field and 1 administrative staff support position in the Rancho Cucamonga field office, which is CSEA's largest field office and in dire need of additional administrative help. Area F is happy. Over the course of this year, we will continue to responsibly reallocate resources into the field in our ongoing attempt to enhance direct member representational service, reduce the size of service areas, and balance the workload of labor reps across the state. As we embark together into this next year with the wind at our back, there is so much for which we have to be thankful and proud. I want to thank President Valdepina and the Board of Directors for their vision and courage, and for never losing sight of what is the most essential commodity of this union, its membership and its staff. Thank you, guys. I want to thank all of CSEA's staff and express my appreciation for the work they do every day to support and protect our members. The staff has done an exemplary job meeting the lofty standards we have set for ourselves and ensuring respect for the worth, dignity, and diversity of all CSEA members. Earlier this year, CSEA held our 2nd all-staff training week. In our 93-year history, we have only had 2 all-staff trainings, with both occurring within the last 3 years. Every CSEA staff person from across the state attended training on a variety of subjects. They shared their ideas to make CSEA stronger and interacted, reconnected, and met new staff. I want to thank the AEU and CSEA Joint Committee who worked all year to put this program together, and to President Valdepina for his opening remarks and for being the DJ at the party and staying with us through the full 3 days to observe and interact with the staff. I want to thank all of you for everything you do. At the core of our union's strength are its members. Your commitment to labor, CSEA, education, and California's children make you giants in our movement. Please give yourselves a round of applause. I want to thank you to Area J and our families, husbands, wives, and significant others. Without the support provided by you, we would not be able to do what we do. So this year, we have had challenges that have tested our resolve, improved our resilience, and we have had opportunities which we have taken full advantage. Today is a day for us to reflect upon and celebrate the grit and the hard work of our members and staff, and to thank those who contributed significantly to our success this past year. Through the work of members and staff, we have pushed back on those who sought to destroy our union. We have maintained a strong political presence, allowing us a place and a voice at the table. And we have helped to restore the working bargain that says if you work hard and take responsibility, then your work should be rewarded. Despite all the opposition, despite all the cynics, despite adverse rulings from the courts, we have survived and will continue our fight for income inequality, affordable health care for all, quality education for children, and a secure retirement for not only CSEA members, but for everyone. We have taken bold steps this past year, and if we continue our fight together with a common purpose and a common resolve, we will get to a place where those who threaten us will be few and those who support us will be many. Through the work and dedication of members and staff, our union will keep getting stronger, and more workers will want to enjoy the benefits of full CSEA membership, and fewer workers will fall victim to the disempowering message from organizations like the Freedom Foundation. Our union and our labor movement will not prosper without you, but by working together, we will make sure we all prosper together. This is our day, this is our time, and this is our union, and we will not let anyone take it from us. I'm in. Thank you very much.